Donkey Kong Country is one of the best platformers of all time, and it tells the simple story of how a poor group of apes were robbed of their most valuable resource: bananas. But what if I told you there was more to the story? What if I told you that the Kongs aren't just some innocent group of apes that were taking naive shits in the forest while they were maliciously robbed by a bunch of cruel crocodiles? What if I told you that the Kongs are the bad guys? Now before you think this is going to go in the whole jet fuel can't melt steel beams direction, hear me out, because I've got some pretty good reasons why you should believe this. But before I do that, let me give you Donkey Kong Country's story in a nutshell. On a stormy night, much like this one, Diddy Kong was charged with protecting the Kong's banana horde. Unfortunately for him though, a bunch of Kremlins show up, beat him up, shove him in a barrel, and then steal all the bananas. Donkey Kong wakes up the next morning and finds the bananas missing and Diddy in the barrel. He then vows to recover his bananas and get revenge on Captain K. Rool. Now the story sounds nice enough on paper, especially considering it's a Super Nintendo game, and a lot of those games don't even fucking have stories. But if you analyze it with any degree of scrutiny, it's gonna start crumbling faster than my ego after my first high school dance. Now the game would have you believe that all these scaly bastards, King K. Rool included, come from this place called Crocodile Isle. It's the main location from Donkey Kong Country 2. So there are these foreign invaders who come to Kong Island and take all their shit and they're just causing a ruckus, you know, those fuckers. Yeah, turns out this is a load of horse shit. The game wants to convince you that these Kremlins popped up in the middle of the night like a bunch of fucking boogeymen, but in reality they've probably been on Kong Island for a really long time. Probably even longer than the Kongs. Okay, I get what you're thinking. Longer than the Kongs, it's called Kong Island, you jackass. I know. Calm your tits, boys and girls, because I got a fat truth bomb heading your way. There are 2 levels in the game which take place in a set of ancient ruins. Now, if you pay attention in these ruins, you'll notice something a little odd. Throughout the level, there's a series of pillars which can be seen in the background. Now, at the top of these pillars are the carvings of some kind of reptile. While at first it may appear to be something more serpentine, it is also suspiciously similar to this game's version of crocodiles: Kremlins. Don't you find it kind of peculiar that the ancient Kongs would decide to adorn their city with the sigil of a future enemy they don't even fucking know exists yet? Chances are, these ruins were built by the Kremlin ancestors and are remnants of a past thriving civilization. What's more is if you go up the mountain, you'll notice there's an entire fucking industrial complex run by the Kremlins. Are you trying to convince me that they established this overnight and the Kongs had no fucking idea? What's equally strange is the area has all the usual Kong establishments between Candy's save points, Funky's flights, and Cranky's cabin. So what the fuck is going on? The most reasonable explanation is that not only do the Kongs know about these factories, they were overseeing them. Think about it. What the fuck do the Kremlins have to show for all these factories in the first game? Nothing. They don't have anything that justifies this shit. But what do the Kongs have? The Kongs have all their bullshit barrel technology like barrel planes, barrel launchers, barrel this, barrel that. They've got barrel shit going on up the yin-yang. And what do you think powers barrels? Oil. What was the name of the first level in this area again? Oh yeah, Oil Drum Alley. So while this area is called Kremkroc Industries, it's really just a giant oil refinery to the benefit of the Kong Barrel Industrial Complex. Why else would the levels be full of barrels and tires, things that the Kongs can actively use against the Kremlin? They're there in case of a Kremlin uprising. Also, if this was truly a Kremlin-run factory, why the hell would they be burning their own oil? What they're really doing is burning the lifeblood to the Kong's technological superiority: barrels. So I've kind of teased at my overarching idea here, but now that I've given you a little bit to think about, let's just dive into it. Let me explain to you what I think the real history of Kong Island is. In the distant past, both the Kongs and the Kremlins had their own separate thriving societies on the island. Eventually, though, the Kongs went through the Industrial Barrel Revolution, at which point they realized that they needed a massive amount of oil in order to fuel their newfound barrel contraptions. Now, unfortunately for the Kongs, they never really had a high enough population to work the refineries to get enough oil to create their own ideal barrel society. At which point they realized that the Kremlins had a pretty high population and didn't have access to advanced barrel weaponry. The Kongs then used their newfound technology to pummel the Kremlins into submission, at which point they enslaved them in order to refine more oil for their barrels and to chisel the face of the newfound rulers of the island into the side of the mountain. Now fast forward a few centuries and King K. Rool and his band of Kremlins from another location find the Kremlins on Kong Island. They find that they have been enslaved, and in retaliation, in an attempt to rescue them, they steal Donkey Kong's banana horde in an attempt to start a coup or a revolution. Now by this point, you might be having a little bit of cognitive dissonance because you're thinking that Donkey Kong and the Kongs are all these good guys, and why would these good guys enslave all these Kremlins? That's like a bad thing to do. Why would they do that? Now, regrettably, up until now, you've been sucking on Nintendo's propaganda harder than Candy Kong sucks on Donkey Kong's Donkey Dong. Let's not forget the original Donkey Kong, where Cranky Kong in his younger years kidnapped Pauline, Mario's girlfriend, and then tried to murder him as he tried to rescue her. And before you say Cranky Kong is some asshole outlier of the Kong family, let's not forget Uncle of the Year Donkey Kong, who habitually beats his nephew, Diddy Kong. Yeah, abusive relationships seem to be a staple on Kong Island. If Tumblr existed when this game came out, I wouldn't be surprised if they fucking boycotted it. But the Kong's crimes go so much deeper than kidnapping or abuse. You see, the majority of their guerrilla warfare is waged by child soldiers. Across the 3 Donkey Kong Country games, you play 4 protagonists, and only one of them is a fucking adult, and that's Donkey Kong. All the rest of them are children, and one of them is even a fucking infant. Fuck Coding 2012, we need to jump on that Kong 2016 bandwagon. For only 99 bananas a month, you can be the proud owner of the Kong 2016 Starter Pack, which comes with 5 stickers, 2 car decals, and an air freshener. Stop the madness. Save the children. Oh, and they also put their, quote, animal friends, end quote, in fucking boxes around the world so they can utilize them whenever they goddamn please. And if you think this was the Kremlins who put them in the boxes, then why the fuck does Cranky Kong have a rhino box chilling at his house? I'll tell you why. It's so if you get too feisty, he can have that Rambi shove its horn right up your asshole. When you consider this, it's no fucking wonder that every goddamn animal on the island is rebelling against them, save for the ones they've already shoved into boxes. Also, fun fact, the Kongs aren't even past enslaving their own. Later in the game, in factories, you can find Manky Kongs, the only Kong enemy, which are a group of orangutans working alongside the Kremlins. It's unknown whether they are imprisoned due to the fact that they sympathize with the Kremlins, or maybe they just, I don't know, the Kongs hate gingers. At this point, it should be pretty clear that Kong Island is basically Ancient Egypt 2.0. While the Kremlins spent their entire lives slaving away chiseling Donkey Kong's fucking face into the side of a goddamn mountain, him and the other Kongs were too busy fucking Candy Kong and eating bananas to give a shit about their pitiful existences. So yeah, the Kongs are assholes. It's no wonder that the Kremlins stole their bananas, burned the oil for their stupid fucking barrel planes, and tried to take over the goddamn island. You would too. So that's all I got for you. You know, that's my theory. And you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty solid. I think I came up with the real story of Donkey Kong. I think this is how it really went down, you know? Or maybe I'm just fucking crazy. I don't know.